Today we'll be working in my workbook called Abraham's Trials of Faith, which is from Genesis chapters 11, verse 27 through chapters 19, verse 29. And we have already covered most of this book already. And we've talked about when Abraham leaves the Earl of Chaldees and stops in Haran, where his father dies. We've talked about his call from God, where God first starts not this is the second time that he gets a call from God telling him to move to the land of Canaan and that land will be for his descendants. Then he travels to Egypt and passes his wife off as his sister, which does not go well. Then when they come back to the land of Canaan, they have so many possessions that he and his nephew Lot have to separate. And then in chapter 5, we have a situation where Lot and a lot of other people are taken by 4 kings of the east. And so Abram and his allies rescue Lot and the people, and they go back to the area of Sodom and Gomorrah. And then we hear Lord's covenant with Abraham more expressed, more detailed, where he says he will have descendants like stars in the sky. And then and that he will have descendants of his own lineage. And then we have the story of Sarah and Hagar. Sarah, trying to solve the issue for God, presents Hagar as the surrogate mother, has her lay with Abraham, and now this gives birth to Ishmael, which is 13 years older than the son of promise. Now in chapter 8, God prepares Abram's household for the new birth by circumcision. This is when circumcision is presented to the people, and Abram's name becomes changed to Abraham. Then in chapter 9, we had 3 visitors come to Abraham and sit with him and tell him that Sarah will have a child within a year. And we know those visitors are the Lord and 2 angels. Anyway, so now we're going to deal with the next chapter. Abraham questions God. Okay. Near the end of this book. Abraham questions God. Genesis 18, 16 through 33. And the men arose from there and looked out over Sodom, and Abraham walked with them to see them on their way. So they come to the edge of the cliff there and could look down in the valley and see Sodom, the town of Sodom. When they arose from where they were eating, what city did they look out over? The town of Sodom. And you notice here on the map, the little red line is the line that the angels will take, but from Hebron, they just have to walk to the edge of the cliff to see Sodom. Did Abraham walk a little distance with them? Yes, he did. Looking at the map to the right, what geographical place did they have to go around to get to Sodom? When the angels are going to go to Sodom, they're going to have to go around the Dead Sea. The 5 cities of the plain are listed here. What are they? We have Sodom and Gomorrah. We have Zor, Admah, and Zeboim. They were in our story a couple of stories back, actually. Who related to Abraham is living in Sodom? That was his nephew Lot is living in Sodom. Then the scriptures say, Genesis 18:17, then the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. So now the Lord is actually talking to the 2 angels. Who is the Lord speaking to? The 2 angels. What is the Lord's concern? Shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? And we know history. We know what he's about to do, but he doesn't know whether to tell Abraham or not about it. The Lord made several observations about Abraham. They were, He will become a great and powerful nation. All nations on the earth will be blessed through him. He will direct his children and household to keep the way of the Lord. And Abraham will do this so that the Lord will bring about um, what he promised him. What he promised him, excuse me. Basically, if Lord is about to bring judgment, which he will in Sodom, as we know, he wanted to make sure Abraham understood why, so he could explain it to his descendants. If God is a supreme being, why is he asking advice from the two angels? Good question. God can do anything he wants without assistance, without advice, without conversation, but he has us do his work with him. He has the angels do his work with him. He is a proper leader in that he shares what he needs to do, not a harsh leader who never tells anybody what he's going to do. So that's why he shares and talks with the angels there. Genesis 18:20. Then the Lord said, the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great and their sin is so grievous that I will go down and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know. The men turned away and went toward Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before the Lord. So the two angels are now going to travel to Sodom, whereas the Lord stays with Abraham. What is the Lord hearing that makes him come down and check on Sodom? The outcry from Sodom and Gomorrah is great. And we'll talk more about that outcry when we talk about the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. What is this outcry? Where is this outcry coming from? Sodom and Gomorrah. And so we have verses to the effect. Maybe we're talking about it now. Genesis 4:10, the Lord said, what have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Exodus 2:23, during that long period, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out, and their cry for help because of their slavery went up to God. James 5:4, look, the wages you failed to pay the workers who mowed your fields are crying out against you. The cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the God, Lord Almighty. So he hears our crying. And he knows what we're going through. And that's what we need to learn here. This isn't a one-time occurrence. He hears our cries. Who continued toward Sodom and who stayed with Abraham? The two men, the two angels, go toward Sodom, and the Lord stays with Abraham. So in Genesis 18:23, then Abraham approached him and said, will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of 50 righteous people in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right? This is for the first known intercessory prayer. Abraham is praying for the people in Sodom. He's praying specifically for the righteous people in Sodom, which apparently he thinks there are some. What is Abraham's initial question? Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Who did Abraham know who lived in Sodom? Lot. Consider again Genesis 14:14 through 21. Do you think that Abraham got to know other people from Sodom at the cities of the valley of Siddim? Remember this, for Genesis 14:14 through 21 is where he rescues the people from the kings of the east. And yes, he probably got to know some of those people. So that is true. He probably knows more than just Lot from the city of Sodom. What is Abraham's argument that he's presenting to the Lord? Are you going to kill the righteous when you destroy the city? Do you think Abraham had a right to question God? We have a right to question God. We don't have a right to force him to do what we say, but we have a right to question and see if we can understand. God is sometimes going to give us an answer and sometimes he won't. Remember, Job questioned him and he said, what right do you have to question me? So sometimes, but it's not disrespectful to question God itself, as long as it is with respect and not demeaning. The scriptures continue. The Lord said, if I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Then Abraham spoke up again. Now I've been so bold as to speak to the Lord, though I am nothing but dust and ashes. What if the number of the righteous is 5 less than 50? Would you destroy the whole city for the lack of 5 people? And the Lord then says, if I find 45 there, he said, I will not destroy it. Bible scholars have estimated that there were about 500,000 people in the area of Sodom during this time. 45 righteous people in a group of 500,000 is less than 1/2 of 1%. Will the Lord not destroy Sodom if there are less than 1/2 of 1% righteous people in a sinful city? No, he won't. Makes us understand what's going on in today's world, huh? Abraham is interceding for a whole city of people, a city where the outcry of sin is great. Despite the huge sin, is the Lord patient with Abraham and hears his argument? Yes, despite the fact that the Lord knows what is going to happen, he still is talking with Abraham and waiting patiently for Abraham to make his argument. The Lord is the creator of all things, all powerful, and cannot handle sin. Why is the Lord patient with Abraham, a created being who's bold enough to question the creator of the universe? Because in questioning, Abraham is learning. In questioning, he's not being disrespectful, but he's trying to understand. And the Lord understands this. Abraham needs to understand why Sodom and Gomorrah will be punished for their sin. And this is one way Abraham will understand. With respect, can we question God? With respect, we can. We won't always get the answers. God isn't standing in front of us like Abraham does, but we have a right to question. We have a right to understand. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We have the right to question. We may not always get the answer that we're hoping for, but eventually we may. So the scripture continues. Once again, he spoke to him. What if only 40 are found there? He said. For the sake of 40, I will not do it. Then he said, may the Lord not be angry, but let me speak. What if only 30 can be found there? He answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there. Abraham said, now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, what if only 20 can be found? He said, for the sake of 20, I will not destroy it. Then he said, may the Lord not be angry, but let me speak just once more. What if only 10 can be found there? He answered, for the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. When the Lord had finished speaking with Abraham, he left and Abraham returned home. So why did Abraham stop at 10? Well, okay, he knows his son Lot's there, and he may even know that Lot has been married and he's had some children. So he may know that Lot has a family of 10 at this point. Maybe, or maybe he's projecting that he might have a family of 10 right now. So he's hoping that he can at least save Lot and his family. That is projecture. Of course, we don't know for sure, but we'll see how the Lord does both what he knows, which is the sin of the outcry is great, and also satisfying what Abraham says. We'll see how he solves that. So now we've come to the end of the chapter. And so the crossword, just want to make sure I have my crossword with me. I make these, but I have made so many books, I don't always remember the answers right off the bat. Number 3, Abraham asked the Lord, will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Number 5, who remained standing before the Lord? Abraham, right? Yeah, Abraham. Number 7, the sin against Sodom and Gomorrah is great. 7 is sin, I would think. The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great. And number 9, he will direct his children and his household to do right. That's talking about Abraham. 1 down, all the nations of the earth will be blessed by him. All the nations? Yes. If the Lord found 10 righteous people, then he would not destroy the city. Number 4, there are 5 cities of the plain. They are Sodom, Gomorrah, Zor, Admah, and Zeboim. Number 6, will not the judge of all the earth do right? It would be 6 would be judge, right? 7, what town did the 3 men look out over? That'd be Sodom. So that's the end of that chapter. I hope you enjoy it.